And it's live.
Live and interactive. Well, hello and welcome into another edition of Movie News here at Movie Burner Entertainment. I'm one of your co-hosts, Stephen John McLaughlin. We're here to talk about entertainment news. Just a few things tonight. It is getting on. And our other co-host, who will appear on the screen any moment now, is John C. Walsh. John, just before I hand it over to you,
Looking very
talk
pink.
about the main topic of tonight and our thumbnail and headline. We're going to also be talking some gaming news, particularly with two of the greatest games of all time being released on Xbox Game Pass, and also Red Dead Redemption 2 next gen release date update. So a couple of things that obviously pique your interest in terms of our gaming interest. And some of these games we're going to talk about for the Game Pass are quite intriguing as well, John. A blast from the past. But what are we talking about first?
Taika and Star Wars. Star Wars, Kings of the Galaxy, fighting for you and I, fighting for me. Taika Waititi, Stephen obviously announced a good few years ago now, when he was in the midst of his own Beatlemania, if you like, Taika mania. I think it was hot in the heels of Jojo Rabbit, and obviously his work on the Avengers stuff. Obviously, for Ragnarok, that was the one. I couldn't think about it. I couldn't get it in my mind. I could get it to my mind, but just not in my tongue. And his career was on a real high at that point. Obviously, since then, he's had a couple of lemons. Love and Thunder wasn't great, but we all still love Taika. Taika's a one-off, as a writer, as a mind, as a visionary, as a director. And obviously, he did get announced alongside numerous other projects which have failed to materialise. I want to say, what, 3-4 years ago, Stephen? But I've lost track.
Yeah.
5 years ago.
I think it's his article, yeah.
Completely. My dog's moving about behind me. I just lose track of the years now. I'm beginning to believe the whole CERN stuff, the particle collider in Switzerland. I think they've done something to reality and time speeding up. But that's neither here nor there. If it's speeding up, it is what it is, bitch. Taika, Stephen, has been out speaking about it. Obviously, there was a lot of discussions a good few years ago about the delay, what was the hold-up. I think there was issues with COVID-related stuff as well back in the day, and he was just talking about how he was honing it. And of course, he was writing it, co-writing the film alongside Kirsty Wilson-Cairns, I want to say. Now, if I've got that right, that is truly extraordinary. But it was the Glaswegian lass who wrote some of 1917. Rated. Kirsty Wilson-Cairns. Oh my fucking God, it is Kirsty Wilson-Cairns.
Yeah.
Is that not extraordinary? He was co-writing it with her.
Yeah.
So we were really excited at the time. She was a great writer. It was her that came up with the wonderful piece of dialogue. Well, it was more like a vision for how the film would play out in that particular part of the script. His body was that of Camembert cheese, a consistency of Camembert cheese. Obviously, he puts his hand into the dead German soldier's back, and it just goes right through. So that was what she conjured up. She was a great writer. He's a great writer. We were really excited, Stephen, but time, much like the Rian Johnson stuff, which we weren't excited about, has passed, and projects have just came and went, been in production purgatory. Well, we've got a bit of news, and I shall endeavour to bring it up. He's been out speaking about it. Looks like it's definitely back on the cards. It's not moved along much, but he was collared. It's like Taika got a little hot under collar. To quote a famous video that we used to love and went back and watched time and again, back in the day with the great Jeremy Jans and Mark Ellis.
Yeah.
He was called at the Sundance premiere of Thing, and he was asked what he's going to bring to his Star Wars film. And this is what he had to say. I'm just trying to get back and harness a little bit more of the fun from the original films, which is what I remember from them. I hate it when they do that. They put a bracket around a word that he didn't say. Stop putting words in the man's mouth, he said, bitch. The stakes are very high, and there's serious things going on. there's also a lot of fun to be had in those films. That's what I was trying to bring back. He went on to say, Kirsty Wilson Cairns, it wasn't that great. I clearly read it in the fucking article and remembered it subconsciously. I was trying to work in a world that was a little bit separate to that, because we've got so many things going on within that space. For me to do something there, it would need to be a little different and a little bit more its own thing. Stephen, what is your thoughts on this? Do you agree with Taika that the fundamental thing that has to be reintroduced to Star Wars, and certainly his project, he is probably the best guy on the planet to bring it, is a little bit more fun? Do you think we need to see more fun in Star Wars?
I think so, John.
Throw you under the bus.
You know, one of the things that watching the prequel trilogy was, I used to, watching it in 99, 2002 and 2005, I always blamed the clunky dialogue, that didn't help the actors. But one of the biggest things that were missing from those films was the humour, from the original trilogy, particularly Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Had this chemistry, and it was particularly with the main three, Han, Luke and Leia, that had this humour about them, and then obviously bringing in Lando. And there was always this kind of dark humour. I always believed Harrison Ford kind of brought that into that kind of humour about the who you calling scruffy, or that kind of thing. And even Carrie Fisher's walking carpet quote and stuff like that. There was always an element of humour in there, not too silly that it takes you out the sort of picture or anything like that, but there was enough of it to create that great energy between the main three characters, and that was missing from the prequel trilogies. And you had some fine actors in there: Ewan McGregor, Ian McDiarmid, Natalie Portman, just to name a few. So it clearly wasn't the actors' calibre. It was part of it was the dialogue. It was ridiculously clunky and unnatural, but there was no humour in there. I tell a lie, there was humour in there, but it was the wrong humour. It was fart jokes from Jar Jar Binks and that kind of thing, and that doesn't sit that well in Star Wars. Going forward into the sequel trilogy, John, they did try and bring that back. Particularly in maybe The Force Awakens, they had that kind of chemistry between Finn and Poe, that kind of back and forth thing that they were trying to recreate. But again, it goes back to the actors themselves. Harrison Ford is a very funny guy, as you know. He's very straight-laced, very dry humour, but he's got a tremendous sense of humour and good comedic timing as well.
Oh yeah, Letterman.
It's missing. Bringing Taika Waititi into this, I think it's a standalone film, isn't it? It's not anything more, nothing more, nothing less.
I believe it is, yeah.
He can do the balance right, and balance is a big part of Star Wars, as we know. Taika Waititi can make you laugh 1 minute and make you cry the next. He knows human emotion. He knows how to write proper emotional storylines as well as funny storylines. It's really the only concern I've got is that sometimes he goes too far with the humour. And is that right for Star Wars? I don't know.
I was going to say that. You bring the fun in, but you have to balance it very well. Because Star Wars has a particular brand of humour. And we've obviously seen Marvel humour almost been explored in the middle part of the sequel trilogy, and probably going to... Rise of Skywalker was just a shambles. There was no attempt at anything. It was just completely incoherent bollocks. There was no humour. I was pained physically watching it, and I was in a state of shock afterwards. It didn't help. It was bitterly cold. I was going to say something there, but I don't think it's appropriate for YouTube. It's a term I like to use when it's cold and it involves shrinkage of a certain appendage. But I took a step back from actually saying it. But it was a thoroughly depressing day. I've never went back and watched that movie, Stephen, but that's neither here nor there. Also, The Last Jedi, I think we had a prank call. There was like a call from Poe. I think he was trying to provide some sort of distraction. General Hux or something like that.
It was a your mother joke.
Your mother joke, yeah. It was more like Marvel, James Gunn.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be alien for Star-Lord or Thor to come out with something like this. That works in Marvel. certainly the cinematic side of Marvel that we've seen to this point, where it's a little bit more, there's more freedom involved, there's more, it's just, it works in a Marvel context. For Star Wars, it doesn't work. Like you said, Stephen, Star Wars has got humour, but it's almost, it's unintentional humour at times. I mean, you go back and from 2026, and certainly even 20 years ago, you go back and you hear Carrie Leia's Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher. It's been a long day. You'll need to bear with me. There's going to be more mistakes like this as the day goes on, or the stream goes on. I've been fucking running about like a maniac all day. Barely drank anything. I'm surviving on a 500ml Pepsi Max from KFC. That's just about what's keeping me from tipping over into the abyss here. Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia saying things like "get into the garbage chute, flyboy," and words like jive and stuff like that. Pure 70s fucking cheese. That provides the humour. Seeing Chewbacca running about with no underpants on, that provides the humour. Seeing some of the things happening in Return of the Jedi with the Ewoks, that's your humour. There's a unique brand of humour in Star Wars. So you have to walk a very precarious sort of tightrope, if you like, if you're Taika Waititi in the way that you implement your brand of humour. He's a very funny guy. We've seen this in numerous films now. Even in Jojo Rabbit, Stephen, you touched upon it. He goes from the absurd, try to fit as much Hell Hitlers into a scene as possible. I think he broke the record with Stephen Merchant, to obviously emotional stuff with the death of the mother and the impact that has. To laughing again, great usage of music, can't do that in Star Wars. So he's got that ability to blend humour in with really serious stuff and make it work in a film like this. I'm just more intrigued to see how the story is going to play out, Stephen, where it's going to be set, because he does, like I touched upon, mention the fact that he didn't want to do a numbered chapter of Star Wars. It was really important for him that it was a sort of standalone film, because then there's not as much pressure. You've not got that 100-ton gorilla on your back weighing down all the legacy, the expectation. He wants to create his own unique thing. And if you're going to bring a guy who's that kind of eccentric, different director into this franchise, that's the best place to put him. And
I mean, you mentioned Marvel there, and the thing about Marvel and the MCU is that it's all within the same timeline, out with perhaps maybe the first Captain America, which brings us into the current time at the very end of the film. But Star Wars is a different thing, isn't it? Because it's in different places and different times. Solo, just the timeline, it's all over the place. They're trying to make it as coherent as possible, but that's the difference between Marvel and Star Wars. Star Wars has got this sort of straight line of a timeline they're working with, and they're putting these stories in, and fitting them in, and they're always, showing you that timeline of, before the Battle of Yavin. That's the sort of centre point, and they work their way out from that. So, I think if Taika Waititi is coming in, I know it's still not 100% confirmed because of obviously Filoni now. We'll be looking at that and seeing if it's a goer or not. But you give that type of director a Star Wars film, and he wants to do it a certain way. I think it's obvious because he's not taken one of the chapter and the numbered chapter ones. He wants to do something, as you said, that he can make unique. And this is where I think perhaps the humour of Taika Waititi will come into it. That's my only concern. But do we need to have that clean break? Do we need to start thinking we can have different tonal sort of shifts in Star Wars films if they're standalone?
Yeah, because I mean, Stephen, you've had Andor already explore that brilliantly. A really drama-driven, serious human condition story about the little man in the galaxy, leading up to obviously the events of Rogue One, which ultimately leads into the events of the Battle of Yavin and A New Hope. So we've already explored different tones, different subgenres within Star Wars at this point. Really serious, dark, slow burn kind of storytelling, albeit in the TV medium. But I see no reason why you can't go full batshit Taika Waititi and have laughs a minute, then really emotional stuff. It has sort of trademark touch in a Star Wars movie. We have to get away at this point from it has to be this way. I understand I've just contradicted myself because there is a unique humour to Star Wars that you kind of have to adhere to if you want to keep that sort of George magic. But then you can then argue that Disney have completely shat upon the Star Wars that George gave to us all, and they have created an absolute Frankenstein's monster at this point. So all bets are off. You can really do whatever you want at this point. But there's no reason why we can't. Now be a little bit more adventurous moving forward. Filoni maybe will help in this process by doing different kinds of films that will jive with different audiences. But ultimately, Stephen, Taika has always been a sort of, what's the word? Not cult, but he's almost like a cult star kind of director. He's never really been mainstream. He's always been just off to the side of mainstream. Obviously, he's got his accolades. He's won an Academy Award for adapted screenplay, original screenplay, whatever. I think it was adapted because Jojo Rabbit was based on a book, wasn't it?
I always see him, John, as a director that's somewhere in between mainstream and a director like Eggers or something like that.
Yeah.
He's somewhere in between that. He's not too A24, but he's not quite Spielberg, if you know what I mean.
No.
But he's got to keep that uniqueness. A director like that, you don't want them to lose their identity just because they're going into some brand. You want them to have their own mark on it.
But Stephen, what I will say is we certainly do have to capture the fun, though, of the original trilogy. We have to take the elements that made that trilogy so special. Because ultimately, we've had 6 Skywalker saga movies since Return of the Jedi. And we've had, 1, 2, how many other movies? Rogue One, Solo. What else has there been? Is that it?
That's it just now, yeah.
I think that's it. So 8 movies post Return of the Jedi. And not one of them have really get anywhere near the events that obviously took place in the 70s and 80s from Lucas. I'd say Rogue One's probably the closest, but even then it's not on the level of Empire Strikes Back or A New Hope. So you need to kind of reverse engineer what made those movies so special. And ultimately, I think you're always going to be up against it, regardless, because it's something about that era, just the crumminess of the production and just the way that people had to work really hard and work around some of the restrictions to make the movie even exist in the first place. And there's almost something unique about that. You see it with Terminator, you see it with Predator and all these other movies from that era. They're not the most dazzling.
Well, I think you have to get actors in that can ad lib as well, as good as Harrison Ford. A lot of the lines that I love you, I know, was ad libbed and it stayed in the movie because it was the most natural and convincing delivery for that character, and this is what you have to get, and I think Taika will allow that, he'll allow a bit of free rein for his actors to have that sort of don't stick to a rigid script, to make sure that humour comes out as natural as possible. But you have to get the right actors in place for that.
Yeah. And Stephen, ultimately what it comes down to again is, and we've had comments saying there's nothing wrong with Star Wars. We don't have to save Star Wars. Star Wars is perfectly fine. Well, that's your opinion. I disagree. I think it's an absolute fucking travesty just now what's happened to the franchise. I say it time and again, when I grew up, Star Wars was special. The merchandising was special. You'd go into a shop, albeit I was a kid, so it may be rose-tinted glasses, but you went in, you seen that logo, you seen the figurines and whatnot, and it was mesmerising. There was something special about the brand. It's lost its way, and to be fair, that's not all Disney. It started with George in the early 2000s, putting things on pencil cases and whatnot. He went too far. The merchandising, it was heavily aggressive, and it watered down the special vibe that surrounded it. Disney have took it though, and it's like black hole shit. We're past the singularity. So they have to kind of get back to making the brand special again. Stop over-politicising it and injecting real world events into it. We don't need it. No one wants it. It's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Get back to what made it great. Family, fun, adventure, space operatic stuff. Really simple themes that kids can get on board with. And then you get brilliant directors like Taika Waititi or
Funny,
maybe
John.
somebody else who can do that clever little thing that Pixar's been
Yeah.
doing for the last 30
Star-
years,
Star
where you
Wars
can
is a-
deliver really simple themes, but it can resonate with adults as well.
Star Wars is a very difficult brand to sort of nail down in terms of where it goes forward, because we've been in the theatre watching the likes of Guardians of the Galaxy movie and saying this is what Star Wars should be. You know, this kind of, you know, the humour and the sort of the togetherness of the characters. You know, and then we'll go in to see a film like Dune and go, this is what Star Wars should be. You know? I don't think Star Wars fans know exactly what they want at times. And we've said that, John. I think it was maybe Dune Part 2. We went, this is how you make a Star Wars film. You know?
Yep.
It's too serious, you know. But I just think sometimes
There's a place for that, Steve.
well, there is
There's a place for a serious movie like that
Yeah.
in the world of Star Wars. And there's a place for a Taika Waititi movie. There's a place for everything in Star Wars. And if it's going to survive as a brand moving forward, it has to expand its horizons, deliver fun, but also deliver serious kind of stories like what we've seen in Andor.
Yeah.
You have to continue delivering unique stories with great actors, allow directors and writers to, with a story to tell and visionary sort of thinking, to come in and show their talents under
Yeah.
the banner of Star Wars. That's how you make the brand survive going into the future. It's not got 70, 80 years of storytelling like DC or Marvel. So you need to create these stories on the hoof as you're going. How do you do that? You bring guys like Taika in. You start off what they're doing just now by installing a guy like Filoni, love him or hate him, who's a genuine fan and understands what it means, what Star Wars means as a sort of experience to people going into theatres or watching it on a TV. And then you let him do his magic in a creative sense, alongside other people like Waititi and whatnot. That's how you expand the franchise out into the future. Stop trying to retell the story of Skywalker, keep getting back to Tatooine and fucking the same old stories, same old planets again and again. That's done. It's been done great. It's never going to be topped. Create your own stories. That's what it should have done in the first place.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have brought Hamill and Fisher and Ford back. Should have just have left that in the
They
past.
didn't have enough confidence in themselves, John, to carry the brand forward without them. That's, you know, I think it was, you know, something that they just weren't prepared to take a risk on financially, to go into a new Star Wars era without any connections to the previous Star Wars films. And, you know, in hindsight, they could have been a little bit more braver about that, you know, and perhaps maybe have went a little bit more daring with, you know, directors like Villeneuve, you know, and even Nolan. But, you know, it is what it is. They went for the safe option, bring back the three, don't utilise them properly, and try and connect these new films onto what was a success in the past. And it's backfired drastically on them going forward.
Well, Stephen, I understand the rationale
Yeah.
for bringing JJ in for the Force Awakens back in the day, because they seem what he'd done with the Mission Impossible franchise.
Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah. He rejuvenated it and then he passed it over to a new director. Obviously, Christopher McQuarrie and the Mission Impossible. With Star Trek, I can't even recall. I think Simon Pegg may have directed the last one. I don't know if Abrams done the second one. But he done a successful job of rebooting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one with, was that the one with Cumberbatch?
Yeah.
But it was essentially a remake of the Wrath of Khan, but not as good. But that's what I'm talking about, Stephen. Hollywood in general's got this obsession with reinventing the wheel, coming back and doing the same stuff again and again, but not as good. Total Recall and RoboCop and all this stuff. They just keep wanting to come back. Predator, Force Awakens, exactly. 3 Star Wars movies in one. So I understand why they were attracted to Abrams, but ultimately what Abrams done with Mission Impossible and what he done with Star Trek, he never did with Star Wars. With Star Trek, we still had Kirk, albeit young. We had Spock, young. He even gave fan service by bringing back Leonard Nimoy before he passed away.
Yeah.
So it had all the right components, and then we moved forward with everybody. In Mission Impossible, you still had Tom Cruise and you had all the gang, and then he added the likes of Simon Pegg and Jeremy Renner and whatnot. With Star Wars, he was terrified a Luke Skywalker, and I don't know if it was him or it was Kathleen Kennedy interfering, because she's got this insane fucking maniacal hatred for the character. But they completely dropped the ball by not having the original three back together. They didn't give the fans what they wanted. They ostracised the main player in the Skywalker saga from the first movie and then killed him off in the second movie. So I understand the attraction why they wanted to bring him back, but the guy didn't have the minerals to take on Star Wars. In hindsight, great, when you've 2020 vision, but didn't work out for me. And now they have to right the wrongs moving forward. And Waititi's kind of got the right thing here.
Yeah.
And mind, by capturing the fun again, keep all the bollocks out, keep all the politics out, understand everything's political in some way. You can, I mean, the original Star Wars was almost kind of looking at World War II and sort of samurai stories from yesteryear. But that's set in the past, that's 70 years. In that time, it would have been 40 years in the past, 30 years in the past from World War II. It's not current day themes. Keep the current day political stuff out, inject the fun again.
It's what they have to do, John. And I think, you know, if Waititi's film is greenlit eventually, it's probably the right time to do it. I think you bring, you know, if you go back to 2012 and the first thing that Lucasfilm announced after the takeover is the new Star Wars film is a standalone film with no original characters. Taika Waititi, who at this point is directing, and it's going to be a fun-filled humour. Try to recapture the humour of that original trilogy. You know, people are like, well, why don't you just give us a continuing story of the original trilogy?
Yeah.
And I get that's why they did it, because they knew it was a gamble if they went the other way. Because too many Star Wars fans are ingrained over the years. You know, when the sequel trilogy was announced, Star Wars was a good 35, 40 years, or 35 years old at this point, you know, and the expectation of the next Star Wars film was too much for J.J. Abrams. It was too much for Kathleen Kennedy, probably too much for Lucasfilm as a whole. And they knew they had to just play it safe, rehash A New Hope to an extent, and see where it took them. But the problem was they never really thought too far ahead in terms of storytelling.
No.
You know, from that first installment of the sequel trilogy. And that's why it became a clunky mess.
Yeah, having 3 different directors as well doesn't help.
Yeah.
Albeit you can look at the original trilogy. Lucas directed the first. Was it what was it? Who directed? Yeah, who directed the third? Was that Lucas?
It was Richard Marquand, but
so it was 3 different directors.
I think Lucas,
but it was one creative vision.
Yeah, exactly.
Under Lucas's sort of overarching sort of tutelage, if you'd like, if that's the right word. He had a vision from start to finish. Disney didn't. And Stephen, that's the one thing that will wind me up to the bitter end. Kathleen Kennedy's remarks about there not being scripts there not being treatments, not being any canon or books or comics, just complete ignorance of what she was sort of overseeing. Star Wars has got decades of stories. Most of them are shit in my opinion, but there's some right good ones in there, and I've read them.
Yeah.
And they did have treatments from George Lucas. Whether you agree with the treatments, it's his vision. He should have been allowed to see that out at the end. I know he sold it off for a hefty profit, but they should have gave the guys respect and seen out his story, and then you can go off and do your own thing in the end. And that ultimately wind me up to the bitter end. The fact that she flat out fucking lied about carrying on his vision and taking those treatments, and then says, here's your treatments, I'm going to shite on them, we're going to do our own story, and ultimately it's going to be a fucking car crash. So hopefully she's out the way, Filoni's in, Taika's got his movie back on the cards. Forget about Rian Johnson. I'd even forget about the Rey movie. Just don't make that happen. Not good enough actress, characters deeply uninteresting. There's nothing, there's no more stories to be told.
The thing is about on the Rey stuff as well, what you've got to remember is, you know, the people that were rooting for Rey and Kylo, the Reylo or whatever they called themselves back then, they just came off the back of films like fucking Twilight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, by the time the Rey films came out, those people have moved on again. They're not loyal fans, if you know what I mean. They're not they're there for certain things, certain characters, and then but it's been what 7 years since the last film, so that time's gone again. They have to start thinking about the next generation of Star Wars fans.
I still can't believe what they've done to John Boyega.
Oh, ridiculous! Yeah,
Have him running about like a collie dog shouting Ray, and then she just discards him and goes with Kylo.
yeah.
And then obviously, fucking what happens. It's just pish. Absolute pish. See, before I bring this actual website up with this next article discussing this next topic, we're going to remove some of these adverts that Google and in fact Screen Rant are putting up on the screen because they're well dodgy. I'm not going to lie. We've got American football players scantily clad. Women, I'm talking about here. It's like, what in the fuck are we getting here, man? What is going on? I can tell you right now. Was that? Yeah, unbelievable.
Cookies.
Yeah, no, it's nothing to do with that. No, I ain't fucking watching. I ain't looking shit like that up. The only NFL I'm looking up is the Patriots getting to another Super Bowl. Get that round you. Fuckface, whoever it was that was in the comments a year ago, slagging off Drake May and the Patriots. Get it right up you. But yeah, Stephen, we're going to move on to the next topic. Also, you mentioned it briefly at the start. Game Pass.
Yeah.
They've stealth dropped 2 of the greatest games of all time. We'll bring this up now that it's apparently safe to do so. And obviously, Sean Moore from Screen Rant, he's we're continuing to get it. Fucking honestly, man. Didn't even know this was a thing. There's women NFL. The fuck's this? That's not Drake May. That's not Booty. Well, it is Booty, but it's not the Booty that plays for the England Patriots. It's not Hunter Henry. But Stephen, he's talking, we're just going to completely ignore that. He's talking about Game Pass, obviously dropping new games. And those games are The Sims and The Sims 2. Stephen, a game franchise that you introduced to me.
Yeah, back in the
day.
Yeah.
And also you had the DLC as well. The Snooty Patootie family, I believe they were called. See, and this is an iconic franchise. Obviously, it's still very much a thing to this day. It's got the next-gen graphics to an extent. But we're kind of discussing this before we came on. It's strange in that this franchise is almost completely different to any other one, in that modernising the visuals and making it bigger and better looking, for me, it's had the opposite effect to maybe like I don't know, GTA or a Call of Duty or even the fucking EA football, EAFC or whatever it's called. I don't play it anymore because I was getting Mars handed to me by 16-year-olds online. It's like, right, it's time for me to step over. My days are done playing online. I'm talking shit. Last time I had it, I absolutely destroyed people online. But it's almost shocking, that trend, and that as the visuals have got better, it seems to have lost that magic. I don't know what it is. The original one and certainly the second one were unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
The possibilities, the building the houses, just the interactions, the craziness, the jankiness of it. That's why I'm attracted to Dead by Daylight as a franchise. It's 10 years old. The animations are a joke, but there's a charm to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm delighted to see this is coming out, not just for me, but for a whole new generation who are perhaps not aware of this, who get to discover it once again.
It's a tough one, John, because it's 26 years old now since The Sims was released, and this was like pre roleplay internet, like Roblox and all that kind of thing, and Minecraft. This was the sort of first of its kind for role playing on PC initially. And it's one of those very enjoyable point and click games. I'm looking at those graphics now and they're so very basic, but back in 2000 it was fantastic, just having that sort of creating this world, and you can create the area, the neighborhood, I think it was, and then these expansion packs coming out every 6 months or whatever, hot date, vacation, so on and so on. It became this addictive thing, and I'm not really sure if the next generation will be that interested in it, John, to be honest with you.
Yeah, potentially not.
just because, they've got so many options now online. This was the thing back then that, it was basic, it was simple, it was easy. And it had its own language, as you recall. Do
Yeah,
you remember?
yeah.
Cantina.
Cantina.
It was just it was unique for its time, and it was very new and something original. And it was just great, having to be able to get into this role play world where you can just, immerse yourself, in these families, and see what they're up to. It was weird. There's a bit of voyeurism in there, I suppose, but
The Newby family, he was an absolute jakeball though, wasn't he? He was honking, he had stains in his top and whatnot.
Yeah,
Just
Servo, obviously the robot.
Servo.
He always went into the bathroom when the wife was showering. Weird.
Yeah, absolute
weird
dodgy
robot,
bastard.
So
that's the future.
No, it was a great game, John. I'm glad to see it back, but for Xbox Game Pass, I'm not really sure. I always like that as a point and click game with a mouse on a PC rather than with a game controller. I just don't think it has the same effect, and I've tried The Sims 4 through the Game Pass as well, and I probably played it for 5 minutes and lost interest. So I'm obviously a lot older than I was when this first came out, John. So I think that's got a lot to do with it as well. The time for me probably has passed for playing Sims, but it's such a great game in its day, and as I said, just looking forward to those expansion packs. What are they going to do next? That was the thing, and fantastic. Absolutely, just really, really good.
Yeah, I remember back in the day that and Roller Coaster Tycoon. That was the things that I was well into. I just devolved so much time. I dedicated so much time.
Yeah.
Theme park, Theme park, I was always terrible at. Roller coaster, I used to lose myself on that for hours on end. And Stephen, that's kind of what these games almost tap into when they drop onto a service like Game Pass. I'm saying that they're maybe for a new generation to discover, but they're probably not. They're probably the opposite. They're probably for nostalgia.
Yeah.
For the older gamers out there who can go back and try and relive some of the heydays when they were younger and they had a lot more free time. Well, I found that numerous times now with, not online multiplayer games, because I just can't do the whole fucking RPG stuff anymore. There was a point when I left school, I went through a DD phase. That's a character who was a bit of a down and out loser that Brian Lemon created, great comedian from where we're from. If you're from somewhere else outside the British Isles, you'll not have a clue what I'm talking about, so I'm trying to offer some context if you can understand me. And I lost myself for about 18 months playing World of Warcraft. I was unemployed and just an absolute fucking loser. Don't really regret it though, because it was pretty enjoyable. I'm not going to lie, but not got the time for that now. Couldn't fucking dream of spending hours and hours and hours sitting. And even Fallout and games like that, I used to spend ungodly amounts of time on Fallout 3. Just ungodly. I bought Fallout 4, I think it was, and it lasted a day and never put it back on again. So it's strange how you get older, your sort of views on games change.
Yeah, I mean, John, what was
it'd be interesting if I went back to this, how long I would actually last playing The Sims.
What was it when it came out in the Game Pass maybe a couple of years ago? You were going into space and you can visit different planets.
Oh, it was fucking terrible. That I've probably still got that on my PC.
Yeah.
Right now, I'll tell you right now. Starfield. Need to uninstall
it.
Starfield,
yeah. Better with Starfield. I think
fucking weird there with Starfield right now.
That concept of that game though, 20 years ago would have been really appealing to me. That sort of planet hopping thing, and just exploring these different planets and meeting other people online. That would have been the future, back in 2000. Give me that game now. I want to play that. But I think it's just, you've got so many options now. I don't think the novelty is there anymore. And it's like that with The Sims, I think. When it first came out, it was groundbreaking, addictive, and I don't think it's got that same charm as it did back then, because I think a lot of it was to do with novelty.
Yeah, it was brand new. There was nothing like that ever done. And like I said, I remember the first time you gave me it, I was like, what the fuck is this? This is incredible. Get build houses, you've got these little guys, you can put this on, you can force them into the pool and take the stairs away and watch them die if you're a sadistic fucker.
I actually bought the game at the beginning of 2000, and I had it for about a year. I couldn't play it on my PC. My PC wasn't powerful enough, so I just sat in a drawer for about a year. Couldn't play it.
That's unthinkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, if that was to happen to me, I'd be having a breakdown. Christine, you remember that obviously they were going to combine The Sims with SimCity as well? There was this trailer dropped.
Simville.
Video. Yeah, and it kind of zoomed out, and people were like, oh my God. I don't think still to this day have I get anything that even resembles that. We kind of explore it to an extent in Sims 4, if I recall correctly. You can kind of zoom out into a sort of city map and you can travel.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anywhere near as seamless as what they were trying to showcase back in the day.
I mean, SimCity was a great game as well. You know, it's one of those ones you can just lose hours and hours, you know, if that's your thing, you know.
You're into Skylines, aren't you?
Introduce you to cities, didn't I? And you're just you're not having it.
That's because I'm completely fucking obsessed with Dead by Daylight. That just consumes my gaming time that I've got. I just go on and just get incredible enjoyment out of terrorising people and doing it with the most colourful fucking outfits in the game. Most people are trying to blend in. I'm wearing a luminous, bright pink and whatnot outfits so I can just be a toxic little bastard. Flashlight clicking and everything. So that's where I kind of spend my time. But no, Stephen, you bring that up, man, you can certainly see that. Really impressive. Also, there's a second one out that I was hoping would pop up and make the jump to Game Pass, because obviously the first one's on Game Pass. But I still don't think there's been an update with that. I think they suggested that it was maybe too much of a ball ache to convert it or whatever it is they do, develop a version for the consoles. So I think there's still a bit of an issue with that. But certainly, I mean, I love those kind of games. I remember fondly getting rattled, steaming, drunk, in Holiday in the Villa back in the day. And we had no internet, so I played that little mobile version of this kind of setup. And it's enjoyable to see things flourishing and whatnot. And Stephen, I think that kind of just plays into the Game Pass conversation period. I know a lot of people prefer PlayStation these days. I think they've got better sort of first-party developer games, and they've kind of got a monopoly in that kind of realm now. They're maybe the big players. I don't particularly like that. I think, to be fair to Xbox and Microsoft, despite all their faults, they've always been a little bit more open to the idea of sharing things with different gamers or potential gamers. They'll share things. I mean, they'll buy up the likes of, I think they bought up Activision, was it, or Ubisoft or something. They still allow Call of Duty to be played on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
They'll allow Sony gamers to get access to these games via Game Pass on the PC or on the PC in general, whereas Sony won't do that. So I respect that, but that aside, Game Pass, Stephen, just the variety of games you've got on there, you just can't knock it. I mean, it's truly, I understand there's been a bit of issue over in the States with pricing. I think they bumped it up to eye-watering amounts over there, and there was a bit of backlash, but you get games like this, and then you've got games like The Sims, maybe not that one. You've got Power Wash Simulator. You've got Goat Simulator, you've got Dead by Daylight, you've got all these different games, Starfield, and it really is an incredible platform for gamers to also enjoy doing what they do. Time, blissful escapism from the ills of modern day living. So I've got to commend them for that. Modern day living. Like the ills are fucking even remotely as bad as medieval times. If you stepped out your house, you could get a fucking arrow in the eyeball, get chopped up and ate by some mentalist, or if you're not that lucky, you end up developing the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think times are a little bit easier now, to be fair. Let's be fucking honest.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit better. And everyone smells better. Well, some smell better. Some are still absolutely fucking honking, believe me. I'm a bear witness to that on the daily. But Stephen, moving on to the final topic of the show. Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
And a potential next-gen release for the second installment of Red Dead Redemption. Nicholas Becker, Screen Rant. We've not got scantily clad women in American football gear now, it's safer. We've got heart conditions in Premier Inn, rest easy. Never been to the Premier Inn in my fucking life, got no intentions of going to it either. Don't deny it's probably a good place to stay. But yeah, Obviously, report, Stephen, from Reese. Kiwi talks Riley via X. The rumours surrounding an official Red Dead Redemption 2 Next Gen update are 100% true, confirmed by at least 8 different insiders at Rockstar who have worked on the project. What is your thoughts on this, Stephen? Obviously, we had Red Dead Redemption, the original, come out, and then they did do a next gen update. At that time, I think they maybe added a little bit more stuff in terms of content. There was some jiggery pokery going on with the game to make it a much more enriching experience. Can you really take Red Dead Redemption 2 and make it all that much better? Because certainly we've played it in the last year or so, and it still stands up. The graphics, it's fucking stunning. You'll be going through those northern parts of the map,
John,
sort of grizzly territory.
I'm definitely for it. I think that the first game was the sort of tester to see how it would upscale to the next gen consoles, and it's going to be very interesting because, like any game, when it's cutting edge and it's unique and it's probably at its sort of maximum in terms of visuals and everything else that goes with it in gameplay, you always think they can't do any better than this. You can't top that. No. They always do. That's the thing. And this is no different. This game, I love Red Dead Redemption 2. I love the first one in terms of single player, but something about the multiplayer in Red Dead Redemption 2 was very unique, and just that vast, landscape, the map that you had was just incredible, really. Just you could spend hours just investigating all these areas in the map, and coming across all these colourful characters and wildlife and stuff like that, and witnessing some very funny things with bears.
Me running.
No, I'm for it. I'm very interested to see what they do, because I still think I agree with you. I think the original game, our version's the Xbox One, isn't it? I think it is. We've obviously updated our consoles since then, and I think it's very interesting to see what they've done. If they've done anything, it may just be
even the Series X version, Stephen, is slightly upgraded. I think the resolution and frame rate and whatnot, there's a slight upgrade even with that version of the game.
Because I remember when GTA 5 came out, we were still on the 360 at the time.
360 back today, yeah.
And then we did move over. I think it was about a month before its release, wasn't it? And then GTA 5 came out for the Xbox One, and I didn't really see much of a difference, to be honest with you. I didn't see anything that wasn't already decent on the Xbox 360, but this is a large step more than that was back then, to go into the next gen. But it'll be interesting to see, John, because I think naturally there will be some upscaling just because of the console itself, the speed, the way it runs, the processor and stuff like that. But make the map bigger,
that would be cool, yeah.
Give us more, missions and characters. I suppose that's a different thing altogether, isn't it? It's more of an add-on. But no, I'm interested to see what they'll do with it, because I think you've got to explore the technology and obviously push its limits to see how far you can go with them. Perhaps maybe this is a test for GTA 6 as well. When it finally does come out, maybe that's the reason for this step up, because they want to see how these graphics and how the game plays on the next generation consoles. It's something that I suppose they're testing all the time anyway, in the background. But I think it's more of a public perception. They want feedback. They want to see how people respond to the upscaling. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, that'd be the thing I'd be intrigued by, whether they choose to release it before or after GTA 6. I think just purely for optics, I think it would come after. Because if they release this before, then the backlash would be monumental. People would be losing their shit. Another fucking thing they've done. What's going on with GTA 6? Get this game out already. I can imagine the backlash just now if they were to announce, yes, we're going to bring out an enhanced version of Red Dead Redemption 2. It's coming this time next year, later this year. People will be like, fuck, bitch. When are we getting this fucking next instalment of Grand Theft Auto already. So I think they'll bring that out. I think the suggestions that will not come out to next year now. GTA 6 are talking about pushing it to early 2027 now. So I think they're maybe a year and a half away from any Red Dead Redemption 2 next gen sort of update, whilst they manage the optics and whatnot surrounding GTA 6. But Stephen, regardless, man, it was a great game. I think it's the gold standard. That's the bar that's been set. For a long time, I think it was Witcher 3 that was the game to beat. They released Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't think anything's topped it for the way that it envelops you in the world, just the lushness of the world, the size of it, the fidelity of the graphics, the way things evolve, online, some of the things you can get up to on there. I think that's the gold standard until GTA 6 comes out.
There's nothing better than watching you in that white suit, and just get out your road to aggravate people, bumping into them with the shoulders.
Yeah, I'm the most aggressive.
Get a reaction,
Yeah, I loved it.
It's great to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen, you talk about reactions and being aggressive. To be fair, I'm usually sitting in the saloon having a drink of whiskey while you are doing it. Normally in Van Horn, I think it's called. The most aggressive part of the whole map outside Thieves Landing, I think, or whatever it's called down in the south. We always go up there. I go into the saloon and I just hear the shots. I hear explosions. All of a sudden, there's people running in on fire. Just fucking chaos ensuing. And then it's just absolutely, Stephen, it's great for that kind of just random violence. And that almost goes back to what GTA was like back in the day. GTA was just an incredibly violent experience. It was great. Just going about shooting people, because why the fuck not?
John, that's why I like winding people up online. Particularly on GTA.
Oh yeah. Before you go,
obviously with the, obviously the voice stuff. The chats.
Those were the days, yeah.
But also just finding those little areas in the map where you can't be touched, but you can have maximum impact on other real world players and wind them up to the point where they're coming around the mic and swearing at you.
Stephen, there's a mod for the PC version that is fucking hilarious where you can become a pigeon. And I've watched videos where people are driving about, they maybe take their car in to get redone or whatever, then they come out and this guy flies down as a pigeon and shits on the car. And they're shooting at him and everything. It's gold, absolutely gold. So you talk about winding up. That's the kind of features we need for a new Grand Theft Auto. Not only is it online and you can interact with more environments and go inside buildings and there's just all the different customization and whatnot, height, and you can have little dwarfs and all sorts, big, tall, fucking Andre the Giant things. But I want to see the ability to play as an animal and just float around, blending in and absolutely terrorising people. Yeah, a cat as well. It'd be fucking brilliant because you could just terrorise people, tear them to shreds at least notice. So, I mean, that's the kind of features we need moving forward. And certainly, can you imagine that with what a Red Dead as well? You're playing as a grizzly and you're just absolutely assaulting people. It'd be fucking brilliant. So there's so much potential for these games. They're already great. Well, in terms of, I don't know about GTA 6, it might not be great. But Red Dead's already a great game. So if we can get more sort of graphic fidelity, I keep using that word, upgrades, do something with the engine, just do something a little bit special to bring it into 2026, and that would be great. 2027, I think it will come out, not 26. And then that alongside GTA 6, it could be an unbelievable year for Rockstar.
Yeah.
In terms of people playing their games, the word of mouth, the money coming into the coffers, not that they fucking need it because they're already raking in insane amounts. I can't remember the amount of money that they earn. I'm going to search it up just now. Rockstar earnings from GTA 5, 8.6 billion, nearly 10 billion worldwide. As of late 2024, early 2025, they will have gained even more since then. 10 billion. It's fucking unbelievable. So they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
These guys, use some of that money, eh? Give us a Red Dead, give us GTA 6 already, you bastards. Stop sacking people because they're trying to unionise. That's scumbag behaviour. Get your shit together. Don't forget your roots in Dundee, Edinburgh, wherever it was. I'm hoping it's Dundee. I can't fucking Edinburgh. But that's going to round it up What is your thoughts on the topics we discussed on the show tonight? Thoughts on Taika Waititi saying that he wants to tap into the fun that made the original trilogy so great. He wants to bring that into his movie if, when, whatever, I don't know, get released. That's what he's looking to do. What is your thoughts on Star Wars as a franchise moving forward? Should they ram the political stuff, introduce more fun, more possibilities in terms of stories that aren't set within the Skywalker era? Share your thoughts down below about that, about Waititi. Thoughts on the Game Pass dropping a couple of classic games, The Sims 2, and Red Dead Redemption 2 getting a next-gen update. Do you want to see it before, after GTA 6? You're looking forward to it? Anything you want to share, pop it down below in the comments section. Like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications. And until next time, all that's left to be said is thank you for watching this. And bye-bye.